So this message is for entertainment purposes only. Let's see. This is for everyone who is still trying to humiliate someone. I just don't get the whole thing of how in the world do you think that you can humiliate someone who's already, like, you don't even know what you're doing. You cannot humiliate someone who's gone through the things that certain people have gone through. You just can't. You can't humiliate someone who's had their children taken from them. You can't humiliate someone who's been taken advantage of. You can't humiliate someone who's lived their whole life, watching their backs or in survival mode. You can't humiliate someone who... You can't humiliate someone who is left for dead and they still made it. And they still made it time and time again, only to see the disappointment in the people's faces that they were still alive. 128 could be significant. You cannot humiliate someone who never trusted anyone or anything around her or him because of them being possibly involved with their family. You cannot humiliate someone who didn't have anything, like when they was in school, like the proper clothes. They had stuff, but they had to wear, hand-me-downs or really raggedy stuff and then go to school and be made fun of. You cannot humiliate someone who's been through these things. You cannot humiliate someone who was ripped. You cannot humiliate someone who was ripped from her mother. 218 could be significant. By the same person who had involvement with their children being taken from them. And the same person who had involvement with them being dropped off for dead. The same person involved with having them being kidnapped to be brought somewhere and left for dead. Or the same person who had hits put out on them. Or the same person who allowed them to be able to be taken advantage of as a child. You cannot humiliate someone who had the same person have involvement in their hometown of being stalked by local police, wrongly jailed or pulled over, or have you in fear your whole life and still have involvement with you. Like, you cannot humiliate someone who's been through these things. They've already been humiliated. They've already gone through humiliation rituals. 311 can be significant. 312. You cannot humiliate someone who has cut off all contact with their so-called family, but yet still has someone that is around them giving their family information on them. You cannot humiliate a person like that. You cannot humiliate someone who is taken advantage of as a child. If you think a tape exposing them of doing stuff on it will humiliate them, it won't. Being taken advantage of as a child is humiliating. You cannot humiliate you cannot humiliate someone who is outcasted by their family their whole life, who is constantly lied on by their so-called mom. You cannot humiliate this person. You cannot humiliate someone who was sold to someone or given over to someone as a child for them to do what they wanted. You cannot humiliate someone who was given over to a grown man. You cannot humiliate someone who had to sign their rights away to their child or their children. You cannot humiliate someone, 427, 428 can be significant. You cannot humiliate someone whose mother figure was best friends with CPS or OCS workers and judges and supervisors and was all involved with cases you was involved in. You cannot humiliate this person. You cannot humiliate someone who sat in a courtroom and watch the illegal things go down right in front of their face and cannot do anything about it. with child cases, with speeding tickets, just anything, misdemeanors. You cannot humiliate someone who has watched the legal system betray them. You cannot. Anyways, you cannot humiliate someone by going around trying to, whatever you want to call it, expose them, lying on them, telling about their stuff in the past when you don't even know the stories behind what happened to them in the past. You know, it could be possible that this person's never had a chance to even tell their story until now. Anyways, be careful who you're out there trying to humiliate, because you don't know what the outcome of that will be. You know, you people who's out there trying to humiliate people, what if you was the one being humiliated? Y'all don't ever think about it coming back on you, but it will, because the Most High always wins. Anyways, 605 could be significant, 606. Hope this helps someone.